there. Welcome back to the Science House Express chat. I am Danielle Parker, and I'm the Assistant Director of the Mountain Satellite Office of the Science House. I'm very excited to be chatting with Taira Lance, soil conservationist and environmental educator with Buncombe County Soil and Water Department. Thank you so much for joining us today, Taira.
Thank you, Danielle. I'm so excited to be here and talk to your students.
Yeah, we are too. We are so excited to hear about the importance of soil and your work with environmental education. So I'm just going to go ahead and dive right into the first question if you're ready.
Absolutely.
Okay, so tell us a little about yourself and what got you interested or drew you into the field of soil conservation and environmental education.
Well, like you said, I'm a soil conservationist and environmental educator. I actually grew up in this community and I'm part of the farming community. I live in Leicester and I have a farm out in Leicester. We raise horses and we have hay production. So that in itself started me with the interest of working with soil conservation. I started out with Buncombe County as an air quality technician.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so that job was actually, it was regulatory and it was a great job, but it was a lot of confrontation and rules and regulations. And at the time I was working with soil and water conservation on my own farm, wanting to be a good land steward and have the best management practices on my farm. I work with the 4-H as well. I'm a 4-H leader. So working with them with ag cost share contracts and helping to teach my 4-H students, different techniques, I started thinking, I'd rather educate than regulate. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but
yes, I love
it was
that.
just something, something I felt strongly about. So I just started watching to see if there was any job openings in the conservation field, and I interviewed and actually ended up switching from air quality to soil conservation.
Awesome. So it sounds like it grew really organically into something that you were really passionate about.
It did, and it fit more in line with what I do and my true feelings.
Yeah, which really leads me to my next question, and you may have kind of already touched on this, but what drives your passion for sharing about soil and the environment with the youth in our communities?
So I'll just go ahead and say this. I think our youth nowadays are disadvantaged with getting exposed to the outdoors and the natural environment. As well, because you were a teacher, the core curriculum and stuff is so stringent now, and there's all these expectations and goals that these youth have to reach, so they're just basically stuck in the classroom. Mm-hmm. So my passion is to get them outside, to get them hands-on learning. We do environmental field days. If I could get every student in Buncombe County out in the stream to do a stream health assessment, if I could teach them about wildlife, forestry ID, I feel very strongly about that. I think that's something that's missing in the school systems.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, that definitely touches my heart as well, because being a classroom teacher and having to follow those state standards, it oftentimes is very hard to get my students out. And so it's so nice to have somebody like you that I can bring into my classroom and get some of my students out, even if it's not all of them, at least we're reaching some of those students. So that's really awesome. Great. Well, on Wednesday.
Exactly. And you're cultivating, do what?
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
You're just cultivating the ones that want to be part of the natural resources, and
yeah, definitely. And I've also found that those students are the ones who will also pull in other students as well, which is really nice. So they tend to be the ones that will reach out and say, hey, you should come do this. And yeah.
Exactly.
Very good. All right. Well, on Wednesday, I talked to you a little bit about this beforehand. We released an experiment video relating to composting. So composting is kind of our theme this week, and of course that relates to soil. Can you share a bit more with us about how composting impacts the environment, specifically soil?
Yes, so actually at our office, we share an office with the the Cooperative Extension, and we have master gardeners there, and they have a display, and they actually are actively doing composting. And so we've had to do a lot of studies on it, and the EPA's latest study tells, I don't know if that was in your video, but 28% of what we are throwing away could actually be composted.
Oh,
So
wow.
with that being said, if making compost, it keeps that material out of the landfill, and it also it takes up so much less space, and it reduces the methane and the greenhouse gas. If you were just if you would just take the time to compost. But the main thing with the composting for us to, especially with the agricultural community and the farming community, is it reduces the need for chemical fertilizers. It enriches the soils and it keeps the nutrients there. And if the soil is balanced and you have those nutrients, then it's less likely to have pests. So and it produces more bacteria and fungi and things that can break down the organic matter. So it's a great thing. It reduces the carbon footprint. So
Yeah, that's agreed, all of those things. And one of the things that I found in my kind of looking into this a little bit more, I've done a little bit of composting at my house. But I'm not great at keeping up with it. But I've also seen that there are now businesses, or there's at least one business in Asheville that will actually come around and pick up your scraps, and then they take them to compost and then distribute them to like local community gardens and that sort of thing. So I personally am definitely going to be looking into possibly doing that, because I find I don't have the time to keep up with composting myself. So yeah, that's something I think I'm going to look into as well.
definitely, I just actually wrote a grant for the Lesser Library. They're wanting to implement a community garden, and part of the grant application involved picking up all of the compost from Lester Elementary School and Irwin Middle.
Awesome.
So to take into the community garden. So keep your fingers crossed that that's a possibility.
That's
It would be
so
great for the
cool.
community.
Yeah, that's great. And if that works there, then maybe it could be done in other places as well. That's really awesome.
Right, exactly.
Cool. Well, I'm going to go into the next question. So what is the biggest challenge that health and the quality of soil faces in the future, and how might that affect our society?
So you would naturally think that it's the nutrient value, but I'm going to ask you a question
Uh-oh.
to
Okay.
see. It's not always about the nutrient. Sometimes it revolves around our resource issues. So and I know I've talked with with Envirothon students, and you've probably heard, but I'm just going to ask you what our #1 water quality issue is in Buncombe County.
Well, I know what it
If
is
you're
across the state of North Carolina, so I'm going to say that and assume that it's the same, which is sedimentation, so erosion of soil, and then that sediment from the soil gets into the water and then causes the water to be of lower quality. Is that right?
exactly. So
Okay.
that's the issues you're very good. That's the issues we're running into. And when I go to the schools, so I can ask the kids and I'll say, do you guys know what the #1 water quality issue is? The first thing they all say is poor water quality. I'm like, what? You elaborate a little bit. And there's like, fecal, it's fecal. I know what it is. I hear about the French broad. Mm-hmm. So the students are misinformed as well. So I think a good majority of our position is to get with the farmers and let them realize, what we need to be working on, and that we need to implement cover crops. We need to keep that erosion covered all the time. We need cover crops. We need no-till drill when they go in and try to aerate and disc up the ground. You're causing this huge amount of erosion and to get into the streams. And if we can teach them, best management practices that involve like field borders, things that catch the sedimentation before it gets into the streams, stream exclusion, keeping the animals off the stream banks, all of this, working with erosion control to develop best management practices into the permitting for construction. All these things lay a big part in what we need to educate the citizens and the students. And then there's the other part of that. Do you have any idea how many years it takes to form an inch of soil?
Okay, I'm pulling back from my earth science time. Like 500 to 700 years?
It takes 500 to 1,000 years, depending on your elevation. And so that in itself, that's aggressive.
Yeah.
And so we need to focus on keeping that soil here and for the agricultural purposes. So
yeah,
it's probably not what you think we need to focus on, and a lot of people don't, but.
And that's where the conservation piece comes in. That's where you're really conserving the soil, not just the quality of the soil, but keeping the soil in place, keeping it from running into the water and eroding and that sort of thing, because it takes so long for it to rebuild. Yeah, that makes sense. Awesome.
Yeah, and you need to fix the resource.
Go ahead, sorry.
So you just need to fix the resource issues first before you can fix that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And you talked a lot about that's where the education point comes in, which kind of leads me into one of my next questions, which are what are some of the outreach programs offered by the county soil and water departments that young people can get involved in so that they can learn more about soil and water quality and those sorts of things?
So my favorite program that we do, and Danielle knows all about it, is the Envirothon. And I'll just read you a little clip of what the Envirothon is. The Envirothon is a team competition to stimulate, reinforce, and enhance interest in the environment and natural resources. Students are tested on their knowledge of soils, forestry, wildlife, aquatics, ecology, and current environmental issues. In addition, the Envirothon encourages cooperative decision-making and team building. While each student is challenged individually to contribute his or her personal best, the score that counts at the end of the competition is the team score. So I have a strong passion for the Envirothon because I think a lot of the kids that I work with are urban. Mm-hmm. They've not been involved in the natural resources and the outdoors, and I think the Envirothon is a window to invite everyone, not just kids that have grown up in an agricultural background. So I'm very passionate about it, but I'm a competitive person and I like to see them do well. And I would like to have more of the schools involved with Envirothon. We have currently 5 schools involved. You take 30 public schools in Buncombe County. I would like to see more participating.
Yeah, for sure.
But we also offer environmental field days. So that's that is open to 5th grade and 8th grade. The environmental field days, we've been having we rotate around. We have them like Warren Wilson College, Big Ivy, the community center in Black Mountain, just different places. But my favorite is actually the Big Ivy because the water quality there is at 100%, the only place in Buncombe County. So it's great to get the students out there to do macroinvertebrate investigations. So, but the students have there's 9 stations and they rotate around. We typically have 300 students a day that come out for that. And we have resource specialists from all over the state that volunteer their time, and it's really good to, and they get to use it as a field trip. So they're there all day, and they rotate and learn about forestry, wildlife, it's similar to the Envirothon. It's more in depth at different subjects.
That's awesome. And I will put in a plug for sure for our listeners for Envirothon and the field days. Even if you're not in Buncombe County, if you have an opportunity to, within your county, get in contact with Soil and Waters and the outreach coordinators there, similar to Taira, and get involved with Envirothon through your school or through the community. It's just an amazing program. And I've been out in Big Ivy with Taira, and it's the kids just I can't even describe how engaged the kids are with Envirothon and with going out and doing those hands-on in the field experiences, because the kids just love them, and they learn so much from them. So I'm a big advocate as well for Envirothon. So for our listeners, if you can, or you're interested in that sort of thing, absolutely go out there and get involved with that. So yeah. All right. Well,
welcome all teachers. It's not just for public schools. We welcome homeschools. We welcome private schools. We're all about it.
That's awesome.
So,
yeah. Thank you for reminding me of that. It is not just public schools. That's right. A lot of homeschoolers are involved in Envirothon.
Especially when you get to the state level,
they
dominate.
Yeah.
And we also we do Camp Wild, and so if you are involved in the Envirothon, you have first option with Camp Wild, and that's a week-long environmental science camp.
Oh wow, that's cool.
That's another thing that's very exciting. We're all over Western North Carolina, sometimes even Tennessee and Virginia. So we have conservation career days. We go out to the high schools, and it's set up like field days. We have the different stations. So we have like NRCS, we have USDA, we have Fish and Wildlife, we have all the different resource specialists, and Soil and Water, of course, is involved, and the students rotate through the stations so they can learn all about the different conservation fields and the different careers that they could get into. And we also have RCW, which is a Resource Conservation Workshop, and that's the NC State, and that's a week-long camp. I typically award 2 scholarships to, you have to be 9th grade through 11th grade. You can't be a senior and go to RCW, but 9th through 11th, and it's another awesome event that we do because you actually are in those positions and you get to go out to in the field and do the job. So
that's cool.
It's and then we do land judging. So that's just some of the top ones. And we have education contests. And for some reason, Buncombe County they don't have a lot of the schools involved with that. And I can't figure that one out. We do poster contest, essay, speech, and they can compete on an area level, state level, depending. So
wow, that's a lot. That's a lot of resources and a lot of places you guys can have your hands reaching out and trying to engage the youth in the community, which is amazing. That's a lot of stuff. I didn't realize you guys had all of that going on. So that was something new that I've learned, which is great. Very cool. Well, I'll move on to the next question. This one might, I don't know, maybe a little bit challenging of a question. What challenges have you faced in your role as a female conservationist?
So I have to say, I I have not faced challenges.
That's good.
But it is, but I do see it with counterparts in other districts that have issues. But I'm very lucky that I work in a community that I grew up in and I'm accepted. But I do feel it's because I am in the farming community and I have a successful farm and I do have that working knowledge of the land. So the average age here of a farmer is right now is around 70.
Oh,
So
wow.
with that, because the farmers around here know me and they know the technical issues that I implement them on my farm. So it makes it easier for them to accept me,
Right.
being a female. So I am at an advantage, but I do see with other districts and other counties that it doesn't quite go that way.
Right. Right.
But
That makes sense.
I'm lucky.
And it makes sense that, yeah, that you've grown up in the community and you've established yourself in the community, that that it wouldn't be as challenging for you. But on that note, and being able to see working with other females in your field, what advice would you give young girls that wanted to go into some kind of field like yours, or any field of science or STEM?
So if you're talking in our particular field, I would challenge you to get involved with the Envirothon, with eco clubs. The RCW, all these things. And if you could participate in the education contest, like on our scholarships, I will have to say, you rank higher. Anything you're involved in, you get points for that. And we have some absolutely killer scholarships. The foundation offers a $20,000 scholarship for soil and water careers in conservation.
Wow.
Yes, I know. And then the USDA pathways, they take high school students, they pay them to work all summer, and then they also get scholarships.
Great.
It's a 2-year commitment once you graduate, but if you basically get your college paid for and you're paid all through the summer, I mean, you can't go wrong. There's so many advantages now that are available going into this field. Duke Energy has some definite scholarships as well, but the NRCS doing their pathways program, to me, is the best route to go, because once you get out of school, because you've been doing the job as an intern, you know the job.
Yeah.
When you get out, things like that, I would encourage more.
That's awesome. Very good.
And then, like we talked about, is the colleges that have working farms, and that's another route to take.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good ones, especially here in North Carolina as well, with that, having the working farms and that sort of thing. So yeah, that is great advice. Well, I'm going to leave you with one last question. Hopefully this will be the easiest question for you, but what is the coolest thing about your work that you get to do?
So I have to say it's getting to work in the field and getting to work outside with the students. Even like with camp, I'm an outdoor person, and with camp we had falcons. We had
Nice.
To me, it's just, I'm very lucky. I love my job. I love working with the kids, and I love what I do, and I'm passionate about what I do. So
That is awesome.
I would have to say getting to work in the field is the coolest part of my job.
Yeah.
And I get to drive around a Souls trailer, and I have a stream table that I can hook up at any time.
And again, having been out in the field with you, I can totally understand that and see that, because you are in your element when you're out in the field, and again, you're so good at getting the students engaged and getting them that hands-on experience. So I could totally see that. That is really awesome. Well, anything
You've
else?
got to ride on the force.
Say that one more time. Sorry.
I said you've got to ride on the task force.
Yes.
The bus.
Which was such a great opportunity. It was awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you, Taira, so much for talking with us today. This was really great. And I definitely learned more about the Soil and Water Department and all the things that you guys do and are able to offer to our community. And so hopefully our listeners have as well. And we just really appreciate you coming on today and talking with us. I hope you, the listeners, also enjoyed our chat with Taira. Join us next week when we'll have another Science House Express. Until next time, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. Additional information can be found in the description box below. And thank you for watching our Science House Express chat. See you next week.